I know my own destiny, Uncle.
Is it your own destiny? Or is it a destiny someone else has tried to force on you?
Stop it, Uncle. I have to do this.
I'm begging you, Prince Zuko. It's time for you to look inward and begin asking yourself the big questions. Who are you? And what do you want?
This is a difficult question to answer, and we will come back to it. But first, I have another question for you. What do you think? What percentage of your life today is determined by your past? 0%? 25%? 50%? 75%? Or 100%? The correct answer is, it depends. It depends on you. Because the more you believe in the power of your past, the more you will see yourself as a victim of this past and won't be able to move forward. And yes, of course, the past has an influence. And there are also tough circumstances, no question about it, but I think you get the point. I mean, there are also twins with a difficult past, and one becomes successful while the other crashes, even though they have had the same past. So think very carefully about how much power you want to give your past over you. You are under no obligation to be exactly the same in the next 10 minutes as you were in the last 10 minutes, or the last 20 years. This is obviously easier said than done. The thing we call I or me is, to a large extent, the result of our past conditioning. And this past conditioning started from the time we were toddlers and continues until this moment right now. And as you probably know, a lot of stuff happened during this time, and most of it wasn't in our control. A lot of what we think today was imposed on us by society, our parents, and our past experiences. Now, when people tell us, just be yourself, there is a very high likelihood that we are acting out our past programming. So I would make the switch and say, don't be yourself, but create a new self and unbecome everything you are not in the first place. By which I mean your conditioning. The conditioned beliefs that are primarily destructive are hard to spot in our daily lives, but I've come to a rule of thumb that has helped me a lot to recognize what's social programming and what's my true self. Does the belief imply that there is no room for development? If it is a fixed belief like, I'm emotional, I am unathletic, or I am a loser, it is the conditioning. Every fixed belief is a lie. It is simply not true, because they neglect the possibility for improvement, which is inherent to every human being. And in order to improve, we have to get to the root cause of change, which is motivation. When it comes to initiating habit change in adulthood to achieve certain goals, most people focus solely on their goals as a motivation source. These are results-oriented habits, but these do not always lead to success in the long run, because an isolated goal can trigger too little motivation in you to sustain the change. The alternative is to develop identity-based habits, as this is usually a much stronger source of motivation once the new identity is an integral part of your self-image. Identity. So what we think of as I or me is the underlying engine for change. While external goals are, in comparison, a drop in the bucket, even though they are still useful. The real magic happens when you combine the two. Now, we know how to set goals, but how do we change our identity? You do it by changing the path you're currently taking. When you have a fixed self-image that is based on your conditioning, your past will become your future. It depends on the circumstances, but generally speaking, this should scare you, because when you take the path of your conditioning, it isn't really you that's taking the path, but your conditioned mind. And it can lead you somewhere you actually don't want to end. I recommend making an active path switch. You let your past be your past and consciously ask yourself where you want to go in life and visualize what kind of person you want and have to become in order to get there. Then you take the first action and continue until you finally become somebody else who is better than the person you were before. Once you do this, you will probably have two voices in your head. One is the new you that wants to embrace the change. The other one is the old you who doesn't want to change and turns into an inner critic. One is your conditioning, but the other is the real you, because you actively decide to become this person. This transition is the big challenge, And the inner critic is sneaky and will come up with a lot of reasons, also seemingly logical reasons, to stop you from making the change. But the longer you stick to the new path, the more evidence you give your new you through the actions you take that you actually are the person you decided to become. And after a while, you are the new you, and the past you is a mere external memory of the past, a similar memory you have right now when you think about your 10-year younger self. If you want to change your life, the combination of identity change and doing the required action, aka habits, is incredibly important, perhaps even inevitable, and one can't really work without the other. And I think another crucial lesson is that every failure is a good sign. It shows that you've raised your standards and walked a path you hadn't walked on before. Your inner critic will tell you that you should stick to the old path, that you are what you are and will never change. But this is not true. The most beautiful things occur slowly and with patience. Coming back to the main question from Uncle Iroh, who are you? And what do you want? Later in the series, Zuko says, I admit it, I have everything I've always wanted, but it's not at all how I thought it would be. This happens when you go down the path of your social conditioning. I don't even know if I have a real concrete tip for you in this video. Just keep in mind that you shouldn't give your past too much power over you. And remember that Uncle Iroh is a wise man. Join the free Better Human community if you want, and have a wonderful day.